Welcome back, everybody. Happy to be joined this Wednesday by a dear friend, my mentor, and best-selling author and podcaster with a purpose, Fran Biderman-Gross, the CEO and founder of Advantages Marketing. How are you?
I'm good. Advantages marketing. That's awesome. Fran Biderman-Gross. Can we just get all the mistakes out of the way in the first 10 seconds?
Okay, yeah, let's do it. Correct. Fran's very good at correcting me. Again, I said she's my mentor guide, so go right ahead.
Well, no, it's okay. First of all, it's Biderman-Gross. Let's start there.
Okay.
You say it wrong every time, but I love you and I don't really care. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. I would say we're a purpose-driven agency. I wouldn't call us Advantages marketing. We're just Advantages. It's just Advantages.
True. There's purpose behind it. So you know what? Since I botched that intro, why don't
you didn't botch it? It's this is real live entertainment, right? So you have to lean in and have fun with it, and just trust me. I might read something, I might say something that I hopefully will never get bleeped out on live streaming, but let's just have fun with it.
Fine. So then, in your own words, why don't you tell us what Advantages is, and how do you help brands discover their essence?
Oh, I'd like to say that while we help them discover their essence, we help them uncover it, really, because it's there all along. That said, Advantages is a purpose-driven branding and marketing agency that helps leaders and teams and brands uncover their purpose, unlock their potential, and infuse it into their end-to-end experience. So we'd like to say that we bridge the gap between marketing and sales, as our process is driven by metrics as well as emotions. It's strategic, creative, and highly collaborative.
That's a way better synopsis than I gave.
I could go on a little bit more if you really want me to.
Well, why don't we rewind? I always like to rewind. Why don't we talk about? Since 1992, I know you started as a printing business and marketing materials, and then now you're an Inc. 500 company. You're working with major players, Fortune 500, 100 companies. How did you ascend to where you are now from the humble old days?
Well, you know the saying, right? It all starts with taking out the garbage. But no, seriously. Look, we grew with the times, and we evolved into this global agency focusing on branding and marketing as we found patterns in the materials we printed and the challenges and the projects that we had over the years. And over, we're very good at recognizing patterns, but we found that organizations that were able to engage and emotionally connect with their audiences are brands that clearly communicate and align around this consistent, cohesive purpose. And over years of education and exploration, of course, with all of the triumphs and failures, which really make the sum total of our experiences, we really crafted this repeatable, award-winning methodology to refine a legacy by creating these winning cultures that unlock sustainable growth.
That's a good. I wanted some nitty gritty from the early days, but how about give us nitty gritty from the early days.
Nitty gritty from what do you want to know? We started in a half of our backyard garage. My late husband, David, was this consummate sales guy. We literally went through, I'm going to say at least 5,000 business cards, pre 9/11, right? You're going back to the mid 90s, early 90s, where he was able to knock on doors and build relationships with people. And, receptionists were really gatekeepers, but they're very friendly. It wasn't this fear instituted world that we kind of live in today. And we really just grew from this printing company to an agency that really helps customers get noticed, stand out for the right reasons, and to attract and repel the right audiences. Everything we're doing now, right, is focused on lead generation and increasing revenue and driving profitability. But in the early years, it was very much about, really understanding what the customers really needed. And we just evolved constantly. We started off peddling stationery and, you know, Filofax refills, if you even know what that is, and, all this kind of stuff, and pen refills, which we don't even use anymore. I don't know the last time I ever actually got to the end of a pen. But at the same time, going from there to print and to promotionals and premiums, and it was always about the attraction, how we could really help them stand out. And while we do that, it's very much really evolved into this component of helping people really understand that you can naturally stand out to the right people when you flip the way that you communicate, using your purpose first and really attracting the right people. So you don't really have to stand out. And it's such, you know, all the landscapes that we communicate now are so crowded, right? We all even in our Facebook feeds, we totally fight to like, wait, who's visible, who's not? What privacy things do I have to turn off? It's so complicated. So standing out organically is even harder. But when you do get a chance to stand out, you want the ability to make the connection with the right type of people.
Cool. So
is that enough grit for you from a backyard to?
Yeah, that's where I was going. It's always important, I feel like, as an entrepreneur and success story, to remember where we came from and look at. I always keep on my laptop, even though it's a newer one. I still transferred. I had so few clients and so little revenue that I kept all my finances in notes on Apple, and it was like, oh, that was my monthly then. It was like, oh, like, okay.
Well, I'm glad you've graduated to an accounting software. That's good.
Yeah, we got that out of the way. So, I know you have the, your three keys approach. So I want you to, I'm going to let you take us through it. So tell us about Fran's three keys approach: purpose, values, and stories.
So, in being this sort of entrepreneurial, scrappy printer turned agency owner, I think we always look for the shortcuts. And every time I would, want to rebrand or thinking about rebrand when we were a printing company and really being truly enamored, because I minored in marketing, majored in economics, a lot of good that did on some level. I think it's really about, we're always looking for the shortcuts, the biggest return on investment, and how do we get to the heart of something really quickly? And looking at an opportunity, which was, A, very expensive, and B, very long, there had to be a better way, right? In the entrepreneurial world we live in, there's a better way. And it's not always cheaper and it's not always faster, but there is always better. And in really looking at and learning and taking a deep dive into all the patterns of everything that we're consistently experiencing with all of the campaigns and things that we're working on, there had to be a better way. And then, of course, I was introduced to Simon Sinek back in 2005 at, a really very small, intimate gathering of entrepreneurs when he had just really stumbled on, start with why and his golden circle. He had just come back from California and meeting with a bunch of neuroscience, or one particular neuroscientist, and how this all connected. And it was really intriguing to me, starting with why, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough in order to actually build a foundation for a brand as your bedrock, really as your underpinning for your communications internally and externally. We bring it to life externally through the agency, but it was very much, and these things just kept coming up over and over again. Everything about purpose, everything about values, everything about story. It's really the three ingredients that you need to clearly communicate where you're going, what you believe in, and the things that you value, the things that you absolutely innately will not break. They're your moral and ethical values for your company, and they stem from your individual. And as you become an organization, they go from individual to shared. And inside purpose, which is key number one, is your why, your purpose statement, which, is very, very, very much tied to the dream that you have in the world, the impact that you actually want to see, that the thing that you really reach and strive for, the reason why your organization exists and why you started it, if you're an entrepreneur that did that. and what you're committed to doing every single day. What impact do you want to have on the world that you're going to commit to? So when you can articulate these three things, otherwise known as the three keys: purpose, values, and story, you've got an absolutely winning recipe for driving momentum and ultimately profitability. And story, it's not just stories, right? These are story points. There you have an origin story, you have a milestone story, you've got every time you do something, every time you change the service, but significant story points. And that's what weaves your history. But the way that you tell a story has to be in a why-based format. Why should I care? Why is this important? Starting from really that emotional, inside out center, and then going into the things that you value, because ultimately that's what sets you apart from any other vendor or any other competitor. And the way that you tell it in that order has to be compelling.
You have
So,
to,
yeah.
do you have to set out with purpose first, or can you like establish your values as a human being or as an entrepreneur or as an entity, and then define your purpose? Or does the purpose have to come for it? Does it go in order?
No, when we do this, when we take clients through this, and you have direct experience of that, exactly that we start with values first. And I'll tell you why.
Why do you think I'm asking the question?
Well, you already know, but
I want to share with everyone because I think it's interesting and awesome.
So I appreciate that. So do you want to tell them why we start? No, I'll do it concisely, I hope.
Yeah.
We start with values first because purpose is really abstract and it's hard, right? It's really, as my co-author Don Scales would say, it's a terrible slog. It's really hard work. It doesn't take long and it's not difficult. It's simple, it's just not easy. But we start with values because innately you're so close to them that you can't really see them or articulate them clearly. But when we help or guide you through that process, it really kind of pulls the clutter apart so that you can actually see what's left. Because a lot of people, when I read, very often I'll go to, a potential new client, a website, or anything that I've never worked on, and I'll see these very convoluted, mission or vision statements that really, when you start taking them apart, they're very how based or very values based. They're kind of stuffed in there. The way that you do things, the things that you value, are the way you deliver on your mission toward your vision. So if we can start with that first, it's really kind of exciting because then people, whether you're in a room of, team members and peers that know you, you feel actually quite unlocked, as we like to say, because you can clearly articulate a strength about yourself translated into a value. And the way that we build them is kind of special. They're not just aspirational, they're actually actionable, and they can serve as a framework to really make decisions. And that empowers teams in a very big way. So that's really why we start with values first. It just clears the clutter. If you're really super, self in tune, we can definitely start there. But as a general rule, values first.
Got to get down to the fabric of the organization, the individual, and interpret it from there. So you talked about a slog. So let's transition into writing a book. I know what inspired you, and how did you get through that? We were talking the entire time, and I know it was a tough process, but you made it through, and you have this beautiful, well-written, awesome book, How to Lead a Value-Based Professional Service Firm. With Don, tell us about that process, and aside from all the, having a wonderful family, a husband, a business, lots of things going on, you were able to do this. And what was the process like?
So I'm not gonna lie, it was really hard as hell. Like, I honestly, I know you asked me how it all came to be, but I'm going to tell you that I honestly didn't understand the magnitude of what I accomplished until the morning of the London launch on January 23rd of this year. Yeah. By the way, note to self: don't release a book with an airport strategy just before a pandemic hits. But that said, I will say that I really didn't understand how I, you know, I was really naive. I signed up. I'm like, sure, we can do this. Of course we could, Dawn, of course we can get this done in a year. And we could. And of course we can get a publisher's interest. And we had a signed contract in, pretty much under 6 weeks, which is not normal and ridiculous. And of course we can deliver a manuscript, fully intact by the end of the summer. Yeah. And no, it like took us 3 months to actually get the format right and the voices right and figuring out how this was going to evolve. I never once wanted to kill Don. I think he wanted to kill me at least twice. But we're very close and we're very tremendous respect, great friends. And that's still not the question you asked me, but I'll get to it right now, which is being a really busy leader and entrepreneur, I really always wanted to write a book. And I knew, oh my God, Vern Harnish told me about almost 20 years ago, like I'll be nothing without it. And boy, he was right. However, the business always came first and the family came first. And I really didn't actually I just didn't know how to make the time to put it all on paper. And I figured, I was at dinner one night with Don and, he just leaned over and he's like, I want to write a book with you. And I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, of course, let's do that. And he's like, do you want to ask me what I think it's going to be about? I'm like, well, yeah. So I was just like almost dumbstruck, but it was really, I don't know. It was like such a big ask and such a big question. And it was so naive. Of course, the answer is like, I'm all about say yes and figure it out later. Holy moly. That was a big figure it out later. But I don't regret one second of the process. I really embraced it. It forced me to really pull the approach together from a nomenclature perspective, note to self, pressure test this stuff before you write the book. I mean, I've been doing this for years, but it never really formalized it in such a crazy, succinct way. So that was a little hard. Oh God, it was all hard, but it was good. It was forceful thinking. It was collaborative. It was putting, ourselves, what would be valuable to the reader. It was all really hard. I mean, Dawn and I literally spoke mornings pretty much from 5:30 or 6 in the morning till about 7 or 8 when he wasn't in London. And then, our tables flipped because I didn't know where in the world, what time zone he was in almost on a given week. But we really worked through all of it. And he literally just turned to me and said, hey, let's write a book. I have this really good idea. David Maister wrote this really great book and, how to manage a professional services firm. And you know what it's really missing? It's missing your approach. And we need to tell that story. You need to tell that story. And he's been living it. He's been doing it forever successfully. So it was such a perfect match of, opposites, but yet so aligned,
And I mean,
it was really fun.
That's probably an interesting, situation in itself to bring those two together, and to have to work through it. And then, to find all the purpose and the voice, within that. So that obviously like big round of applause to you for getting that done. And you did it within a year. I remember, you put that vision out there, we were talking about it, and then boom, here's a book, many months later, but, not too many months.
No, boom, here's a book is pretty much how it felt. But it felt like a really long year, not going to lie. But so incredibly rewarding. Truly didn't, I don't know, until we got the Library of Congress number, I don't know that I really understood the magnitude of how much effort it was going to take to birth that book. But I'm really proud of it, at least for now.
Well, as a friend and someone who who looks up to you, I'm very proud, and it's awesome that you accomplished that. So, adding to your long list of things on your whiteboard behind you, in addition to that and to running the firm and doing everything you're doing, you also launched a podcast, Profit with Purpose. So, tell us, give us a little elevator pitch on the idea behind it, which it's in the title, but go ahead anyway. And I'd also like to know, like, I've learned a lot of things from many different guests, and talking to people is it fascinating, whether it's live or not. But what's the best or biggest lesson that you've learned from someone that you interviewed?
So I'm a little bit young, to call myself a podcaster per se. I'm really just, look, when COVID hit, take to the airwaves. That in combination with, hey, I want to talk to you about this. Hey, I want to talk to you about this. Hey, can we talk about this? People would read the book, and I would get emails through InMail and LinkedIn, or through Facebook Messenger, or just plain old email. Some of the people who know and love me, who just like, wow, this is so succinct. I want to talk about this topic or whatnot. And I just kind of I just kind of like went in head first, like typically I always do, right? Say yes and figure it out later. And after going through the first number of the first couple of months now, I realized, together with the team, that there was requests now about very relevant topics. And it wasn't just about pandemic driven topics. It was very much about leadership and how to drive profit with purpose, right? How do you drive profitability and do good in the world, right? You can't do well without doing good. And we're going to come out of life I don't know if there's ever going to be a post pandemic, even though we talk about it that way. I think life is just altered, and we're just learning to be agile and embrace change. But with the shared understanding that purpose empowers brands to achieve greatness, we achieve the next generation of business leaders in through and with transformative, conversations. And each of these discussions revolve around these relevant challenges that we're experiencing right now. They're very top of mind for leaders, and CEOs, like pivot amongst chaos, and scale beyond the middle. And how do we redefine loyalty? And our aim is to offer tangible insights and valuable perspectives to listenership. And that's, it's very fundamentally tied back to the three keys. And how can this help you drive profitability? Because there is a direct correlation and enough metrics to kill you to prove that one should understand how to infuse or activate purpose. You can't implement it. You have to be a leader who activates it. And I really hope, that there's value in the podcast through these conversations and these valuable lessons and takeaways, so that the listenership will just, really continue to build.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you also asked me about what's the biggest lesson.
Close piece of advice, and that's something that you gained from one of your guests.
I'm going to say that what I've really learned is that people are craving the understanding of how to activate purpose. There are so many different examples that they've been doing pieces of this, but they never really codified the three keys into words, into a framework, so that they could really codify it. They could really, get clear about it. And they struggle to master each of these keys. And in the short time I've really been doing this, the lesson for me is that everybody's really struggling with this. And this approach and framework really makes it easier for them to be able to lead and communicate. Because hands down, you could look at, some companies that have done well over time, but really well, like exponentially well, pandemic or no pandemic. And one of the real reasons is because the leader has been clear, like crystal clear, about where they're going, no matter what they are faced with, what opposition they face with. And for me, that's the biggest lesson, is really understanding that they're struggling with it. And I want to give them a platform to learn for themselves, to continue to get stronger and to be clearer.
That's great advice. And I just had that conversation with someone the other day about, a lot of people are sitting on their hands right now because they're out of fear, whether that's, mask wearing or no, but that I'm bringing that up and saying that because that, that transcends everything. And like, they're being tighter with business. They're figuring. So if you stick to the plan and, and you forge ahead regardless, I definitely think that that's extremely important. And that's a great lesson that everyone should take because, there will be, even if it's a new normal or a different normal, it'll be, we'll resettle into something eventually.
So I'm gonna add one thing, or course correct one thing that you said, which is, it's not about sticking to the plan. It's sticking to the purpose. It's sticking to the where we're going direction and staying committed to what we said we're going to do, right? Because everybody is doing their best. Amidst chaos, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. We all know that. So the question is, where's yours? How are you going to, once you get through, and I went through this myself, right? March, I told my team we're going to be okay. We're going to weather the storm. We're kind of timeless. And then from literally over the weekend to the quarantine lockdown, we were not okay. Right? Everybody was just not okay. And I literally had to walk back what I had previously said 3 days before or 5 days before and said, you know what? I was wrong. But here's how we're going to be okay. And I really had to shift the short-term strategy. I needed to be agile enough, not naive enough, but smart enough. But while I was doing that, I was sick, like panicked, scared, didn't really want my team to feel that or know that, but I was. And I needed to go through those patterns of grief, right? Where, wait a minute, whatever I knew what was happening up until was not going to be. So, what were we going to do? How quickly could I emotionally stabilize as a leader? Front forward, back forward. I mean, I was not my best self for those couple of months either, as much as I tried, but I was authentic and honest. And I was still very clear about where we were going. And by the time we got to June and reopening, even though we reopened, no one really was comfortable coming back to work. No one, they're just not. They're just grappling with it now. And some of it by force, because collaboration is key. And we need to do that in person, even for a little bit to regain that. But you've got to go through all the pieces, but you always have to remain clear where we're going. And in June, I really did. I sat down and really wrote a very clear plan of where we were going. And I haven't veered off of it. We're getting close to October. We're right on target. Okay, a couple of things are lagging, a couple of things are ahead, but we're right on target, exactly where I said we're going to be. But you have to do the work. You have to be agile, but you have to be clear because that's the focus that you need.
Purpose, 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 not plan.
No, not plan, purpose.
No, I mean, that makes a lot of sense because as long as you're moving in that direction, you can have multiple plans and meander your way to in that direction.
Exactly.
Understood. Note taken. I mean, you mentioned that you, like as a leader, and I think every leader struggled, myself included. I had some rough times early on, not knowing where we're going. Definitely thought the sky was falling. This is an unprecedented time. Like what's going on, and I know. Like we had trouble with people being comfortable coming back in. We made a different decision than you did. Is like we got out of our lease in Midtown Manhattan. We still have our office in New Orleans. What have you been doing to? I mean, like you're all about purpose. You're purpose driven. Your culture is purpose driven. Everyone is you walk into your office, people are happy. They're working together collaboratively. The kitchen you have that high table where everyone hangs around. What have you done to maintain that great internal culture? From afar or from or with work from home?
So I'm going to say that for creative agencies in general, like Advantage's, remote work it presents a unique set of challenges because beyond virtual meeting interruptions and as a collaborative energy is really difficult to replicate from a distance. And we really found that nothing can replace that in person. I'm going to say it's even a recharge, right? You need enough to keep you going, but you do need to meet and you need to be able to read the energy in the room. We have really pride ourselves on how collaborative we really are and how we all collaboratively work on client work. Because it's not just one expert's opinion. There's a lot of brilliance that comes from everyone um, around the table that bring their own life experience to it. However, one measure we've taken to keep our culture is we connect beyond the work, and the agency uses a daily virtual check-in to bring everyone together, and no one discusses business at all ever on those calls. They're an opportunity to chat, play Zoom games, check up on each other. These calls are not just a lot of fun, but they also maintain relationships and remind everyone that we're still a part of a team. Um, it's just, it's really important. And by the way, David, David Lynn, who is the chief of purpose here, he works really hard in planning fun things that are, of course, intentional and purposeful, but fun. And we really don't bring up client work. We don't complain. We don't praise. We don't do anything other than make that an interpersonal 15-minute conversation. And that has truly been a big, big driver about keeping us together.
That's a good idea. Have you has anyone felt comfortable enough to come back to the office now? And or do you, so you, I mean, I'm sure you have disjointed culture now, but do you still do the daily check-ins?
We've moved to like what we're calling a hybrid situation. So as you know, we haven't been all in person. I have a bit of a hybrid team, which it makes it difficult to kind of demand people come back. But I kind of said to everyone, you need to come back, and we need to find a way. And I will do whatever I can to make it safe and comfortable. We went from communal everything to individual everything. uh, you know, Face shields and masks and whatever anyone feels they need to be comfortable. Of course, all the desks are still 6 feet apart. We have enough space to do that, luckily. Um, and it's really been great. Like, it's really the last couple of months in and out, there's been one or two that have kind of bravely come and gone, but we have more of a rhythm now where it's a couple times a week, and it's such a great feeling to come back together, even though some are still remote. It's just been really fun, and it's been really great to have
You
everyone back.
Do you miss having everyone in your command center? And I have to give everyone a visual. You walk into the back of Fran's office, and if you've worked with her or been her client, you walk in, big conference table, every single inch of every wall, floor to ceiling, whiteboards, markers everywhere, ideas flowing. Ability to connect with the outside world via Zoom on a huge projector. So, like, I mean, have you been using that to just Zoom people, or have you been able to get people in there? And do you miss the old days?
Um, I wouldn't say they're the old days, and they're not gone completely. I will say that we've definitely not met many clients in person, just based on comfort level, also space and time. Not all of our clients are in New York, so we've always been. I mean, I've been a Zoom client for about 6.5 years now, so it's kind of old home week for me. Um, I'm in my Zoom room most of the day. I'm rarely on the telephone at all. Um, it was lonely for a while because I was the only one writing on walls, but I forced myself to ideate out loud, even conduct where I was writing out in different markers for everybody. So we adapted. I came in every single day, mind you, quarantine, lockdown or not. Um, I came out every day because I needed to be here. I needed to listen. The houses in Queens aren't that big, but I don't have a space there. And my husband works from home, and my daughter was in school. It was just like I got way too in the way, and I needed my thinking space. And I also come to appreciate um, I've really come to appreciate having some heads down time and working alone. And I actually like the hybrid piece. I do believe that there's room for all of it. I don't know how to do it succinctly because we're always at the beck and call of the client. So if we're only here 3 days a week and we're working from home, so there's always this hybrid piece. But I think there's a lot more forgiveness. There's a lot more humility. Um, but we'll see. I think ultimately when everyone starts to settle in over the fear, they're going to feel more comfortable.
I agree, and I've seen a lot of people make progress to that effect, over the course of March through now. We've talked about a lot of the challenges, negatives of the pandemic, whatnot. What's something that's been most rewarding for you, or a growth opportunity that you've taken advantage of over the last see what I did advantage over the over the last 6 months?
So I'm going to say that my biggest opportunity right now was to go to Advantages 3.0 and reimagine, you know, being a really super busy entrepreneur, just like you, and just like many of you listening, there's not enough time in the day, right? So, like, oh, I want to work on that. And you always get these, like, I want to lists, and they kind of never happen. And the pandemic certainly gave a lot of people time to bake and to cook and to do all of those great things and exercise and do all of these things. And of course, what did I do? I came to work. But I came to work because there was a little bit of I've said this all along. Like I've been blessed that God has given me more lives than a cat, right? So I've lived through 9/11. Very different experience. However, there are similarities and some of them are a little familiar. And I I quickly realized that I could embrace the downtime if I could get over the fear quick, which I needed to do, which I did force myself to do, and write all over the walls and talk to every team member and talk to clients, because oh my gosh, people could get on the phone you could never get on the phone before, because like I'd wait 2 weeks to get into their calendar and I'd be like, how can I help you? Right? I had clinics and office hours and just consulting for months. I mean, we did free everything, webinars for the chamber and all the things that we could do just to support. Nobody was signing new business. So let's just make good use of the time. Let's do good in the world. Let's help people that are asking for help, that are raising their hands asking for help. And let's reimagine, what if we had a chance to do this all over again? What would we want to do? And while I was talking to all of these people who need the help, I also got a chance to ask them, what do they want? I understand what they want to accomplish, but if they could hire an agency, if they could afford it, if times were different, what would they want? And I was really listening. I was really listening to the point where we're incredibly proud of the fact that we've turned every service and product upside down and created it as a service so that it's financially palatable. It's actually results driven. Imagine that. Drive profit with purpose. Okay, so let's talk about how we drive profit. Let's talk about not the actual mundane tactical activity on how we're going to do that, but let's actually commit to doing that and get everybody else's heads out of the weeds and let the experts do what they actually need to do. And it will prove to be transformational. I can tell you that in the last number of years, we just have a record of closing, and bringing on, and as we say, welcoming new clients to the family. But this is the first time that I have, a number of multi-year contracts already signed with a number of brand new clients coming into welcome, into the family. And a fair amount of these clients are larger than our previous clients, if you look at the demographics. And we're hitting something. We're actually delivering what people need, which is the way they can afford it, the strategy that they need, and the results for execution as a service. And I really think we've stumbled on some things that is proving it's a little early yet. But like I said, I've set out some goals, and relentlessly, I'm going to make every one of them.
I sure do. I can't wait to watch and listen and hear. So talking about, and you've answered this a little bit, through the last couple of things that you said, but like, what are like some basic like takeaway tips for brands or companies on like how to differentiate themselves during a time like that? Because again, for those that see an opportunity or they find that opportunity that's out there that we talked about, like, how do you make yourself stand out?
How do you make yourself stand out? Well, your biggest differentiator is how you do what you do that align with your belief system, right? So you started here. Let's use you as a live case study.
Oh no, here we go. Now let's do it.
So tell me why you started your company.
because I believe that that we could better service clients, and I cared more about the clients and delivering results for them than the sales funnel.
Oh my God, that is such a like a lousy canned answer.
I mean, it's
No, Warren, this is me. This is Fran. What drives you to get out of bed every single day?
delivering results for clients and winning for them.
Ah, okay. So it's the winning component, right? So you say delivering results. Sure, we all want to do that. But what really drives you is the win. So help me understand what a win is, or help everybody understand what a win is for you.
It's no, it's going back, delivering results, creating,
Don't you
taking.
dare look at read
I'm
anything.
not
Look
reading
at me.
anything. I'm not. I'm making sure I'm touching my stand where the computer's on, and I don't have a canned answer for this. Put me on the spot here.
That's good.
Yeah, no,
That's good entertainment. Let's go.
no, it's delivering. Winning for me is delivering results for clients, happy clients, keeping, like, in our industry, more industries, agencies retain people for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. We've had many of our clients 4 or 5 years. So to me, that's winning. Repeatable results for them, and helping them get ROI, return on investment, for the money that they spend with us, and getting earned media on the PR side, and delivering great results on the digital side.
So very specifically, tell me a story about like you were so excited about something that you were able to achieve for a client. Tell me about that win. What is that? What does it look like? What is that like? I want to be on the other end of that call when you go, Fran, I can't wait to tell you this. We did da 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 da. This is what happened for your company.
It's funny. So this story, the first thing that comes to my mind is something that we barely even got paid for, because I didn't want to get paid for. There, we met a family. Um, someone introduced a wine cellar, or in Manhattan, and like they had great email marketing campaign, and they said, hey, for this year, for the Jewish holidays, buy wine from them. And I was like, okay, fine. I read into the story. They have 2 children that unfortunately had a disease, a degenerative brain disease. And it was something that, which was rough. They were dealing, working against the FDA that wouldn't give them the time of day, not a meeting, and certainly not their trial. I said, let us have our hand at that. So we PR campaign, put a lot of pressure on on the FDA, got Washington area publications, other pressure, and then we ran a Facebook page that directly targeted parents and mothers around the country, those with genetic diseases, as well as just concerned parents, because of the compelling story behind it. And then we also targeted folks who work at the FDA. So a month and a half later, they had their meeting, and I think a month after that, they were able to move the trial ahead, and now they're in fundraising mode, and pursuing that. So that, I mean, to me, that's a win. That's a feel good win, and was an awesome. They're not at the finish line yet, but we were able to help them punch through a great victory.
So I would like to just recap that in a different way and say that, when you can help one of your clients, pro bono or not, when you can help someone, break a barrier so that they can achieve.
I mean, a brick wall.
Oh, that's a good one. I think you should stick to that. Where do you think I was going, dummy? Um, but when you can really break through a barrier, right? So the brick wall is a very apropos, right, symbol for you, because you're not satisfied until you break down that wall on some level. Even if you're just poking a hole and pulling out a few bricks, right? You need to get to the other side for your client. You are going to be their champion to do that. And then of course, right, when you're driving ROI and you're driving profitability so that they can reap the benefits of that, like that's pretty much whipped cream and sprinkles on top. But for you, the real passion is getting to the other side of that wall, and what they feel is their challenge, and how what you do as an expertise will really help that. So I think that's really very passionate. But it's even more purposeful than passion, and we could argue about that too. That purpose absolutely trumps passion. Matter of fact, HBR just wrote an article with some pretty decent research stating that. But because it has direction, it's grounding. It is something that you can always point to, and it's your permanent North Star. And I bet somewhat on the, when you walk out of a new client meeting, you're thinking about what's their wall, like what's their brick wall, like how do I get to them? And as much as you want to achieve the breakthrough or the breakdown of that wall for them, it's the challenge that really drives you, and I know the rest of your team, because they are quite relentless until they get what they want.
Yeah, yeah, you've
Um,
seen it in action.
absolutely have. I absolutely have.
I appreciate you using me as an example, and and helping me find my purpose. Um, live here on Facebook. So last one before we get into a couple of personal ones to wrap up, is how, like, you have a purpose, you're going somewhere, you don't have a plan, you have a purpose, you have many plans. I got it. How much does a brand's mission or purpose have to change to let the COVID influence letting our new normal into that, or should you stick to it as we discussed earlier?
So you never change your purpose if you've uncovered it correctly, right? So that's the problem I have with people sort of changing direction in that way. It's more that was the original stated purpose that they're changing from. It's like core values. You can't once you do them, until there's a pivotal change, there shouldn't be any change. They are, by definition, unchanging. Values are unchanging. So brands should never shift their purpose. They can achieve a vision and reset a new one. And stories are malleable, but purpose is not. The essence of your brand should always remain unchanged. And it's the execution that evolves. Brands should actually look at their purpose to determine the best way to pivot, not only with passion, but purpose, and ask yourself, what I must say is, and do differently today to achieve the same vision? Like, do I have to do something differently today to actually stay on course? And how can I adapt without compromising the dream that I stand for? Because if we see the pandemic as seizing the moment of opportunity that is not aligned with your purpose or your vision, you're just going to end up being distracted by, what I call ADD shiny, right? So you're going to go down an opportunity, you might make some profit, but in the long run, it didn't help you. So, I understand there are many, many businesses that are not in a cash flow positive, good way. They are not going to recover, some 75%, some 50%, it's the 40% reductions in down that I am concerned about. I wonder if their business model, really needed course correction. So look, every traumatic situation always reveals what's underneath. And I'm not saying that there aren't a lot of good businesses in there, but there's always room for improvement. I mean, Advantage is going to take a good 180 and improve a lot of things. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some money. It's going to take some team, but we're committed to doing it because we have a clear permanent North Star, right? Everything we do, we are completely driven by helping leaders and CEOs achieve the visions that they set out to, by rallying the teams around them. And that is completely clear. That will not change. How we deliver it, services might be different, SaaS model, off the shelf. There's so many ways to do it, but I change your purpose? No. Certainly not if it's authentic to who you are and uncovered correctly. And again, I'm not saying that it isn't, but you have to stick to it. And it should give you energy. It should revitalize you when you can get to that fuzzy, emotional place of like what really drives you, right? You had a smile on your face when you were telling me the story, about the FDA, because it gives you energy. It fills you differently than a goal does. I hope
Absolutely.
that makes sense to you.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And we, on the PR side, we definitely, we were like there, I feel like you have to be opportunistic, and we pivoted, to the COVID stories, and we pivoted to healthcare, because that was, expanding, and will continue to
Sure.
expand. But, again, the overall, that answer is fantastic, because that North Star, the overall purpose remains the same. It's your core, it's your essence. So the next couple of the personal questions, we can't even ask them. Here they are. Where have you been quarantining? Haven't been quarantining.
Here. No, that's not fair. I literally, I spent many months not seeing, anyone. First of all, I get here like so ridiculously early, like way before the stores open. So there's no one to see or to bump into. And I leave pretty late. For a while, I left really pretty late as well. But I go from here to home. We're really pretty isolated.
I wasn't saying you weren't isolated. I just meant like you're working.
Yeah. No, I am working. Like God forbid you should ask me if I developed any new hobbies. It was like podcasting.
Yeah, that's the next question. Yep, working. Yeah, podcasting.
Yeah. Well, it's really been fun though. Getting access to people that I wouldn't normally, having a true intent and clear purpose for that and driving that value and really having some great conversations. So it's been really kind of fun. I will say I definitely began the tackle of taking all our digital photos digital, into those cute little books and things. It's been a bear, but I swear it might take me 2 years to do it, but I'm crusading through it, one pack of pictures at a time. I spent a fair amount of time at home on the weekends, just literally cleaning out every single closet and decluttering. I find solitude in that because I don't think we need nearly as much stuff as we need. So felt really good to give a fair amount of things away that we didn't really need to hold on to. Yeah, I don't know.
Next question is, did you adjust well to working from home?
No. Flat out, no, I revolted. A matter of fact, the most time I spent at home, fun fact, Spectrum was out for like a day and a half. And it came in the morning. It was fine. I had to get on a Zoom call and like, there was no internet. And I was like on my phone. I had to go home. I was miserable. I was angry. I was like, what? You took me out of my office? Spectrum did that? Ugh, in the morning. Like I was just like, okay, they said 9:00. It's 10:00. But I got here, I think by like noon that day. And I was very happy to be here. It's not that I didn't love being at home. I don't like working from home. I like, this is my space. These are my walls. This is how I think. I needed to be here. I couldn't be at a makeshift dining room table, on a small laptop screen. I've got 2 screens. I just couldn't adapt. Yeah. So no.
All right, last one. And this one I think you can answer. You talked about it on the business side, but what's the biggest, we'll go with personal lesson you've learned during the pandemic?
The biggest personal lesson I've learned. I think if you ask my family, it would tell you that I'll lie, but like, not that I've done it, but I think you really just have to be super tolerant and super understanding, which I know I have not been. So there's a lot of guilt in that lesson that I don't learn. Doesn't mean I don't intellectually understand it. But I would also say that there's definitely an appreciation for family. I think, in our communities, as we're so locally active, there was a real camaraderie that came together, different again, like in 9/11 that came together, but the local community was much less fragmented this time. And maybe because we were in Queens and we really were the pandemic ground zero. I drove past Elmhurst Hospital like every day. I do every day. It was very disturbing to be I can tell you, just the lesson of being kind to people, and being, business owners in trouble, really listening and understanding. I think that's really, you go back to center. And I've definitely experienced a number of traumatic milestones, good, better, and different. It's just what I've been dealt. Um, and it always has a way of centering you to the humanity of what's really important. And I think that was a good reset. People were having dinner together that hadn't had dinner together in a really long time. And we were cooking and baking and doing all, I mean, my kids were, and it was really hard not to celebrate holidays with my kids who, disperse and live on their own, and watch them be alone and feeling like a little bit of like a catering service with great pride so that they could take a piece of family with them. But it was hard to be separated. Um, but I'd say the biggest lesson always comes back to patience and tolerance and an appreciation for a family, truly.
That's a,
Um, and that extends into professional also, right? Because my team is my family. And, there was a lot of, I couldn't reach you and I needed this. And why can't we make this decision? And, you get on a Zoom call, they're like, hey, I don't need this. Like, I don't need to come to work for that. Like, I got enough crap going on at home, dealing with Zoom calls and kids and pets. And it's a lot. It's a lot to be in confined quarters when we're such, oh my gosh, my passport, like, I joke that like I'm on top of the subway and I'm in an airport far more than I'm in Manhattan, in Midtown, and it's unbelievable. But I have not been to Midtown since April. Like, just haven't been there. So it's just I obviously haven't been on a plane either. But
yeah.
it's like this is the most grounded I've been in like the better part of a decade. And you know what? I like these what we call snow days, right? I like being at home on a Sunday. And
Yeah.
I like, being with the fam and doing that kind of stuff.
That's a great answer and also inspiring. So now we're going to wrap up, but so first, before you tell us where you can find advantages, not marketing, I know, where can folks buy your book? I definitely highly recommend it. I think it's awesome. Yeah. Let's see the cover.
Oh gosh, hold on.
And
Let's
where,
see.
awesome.
How to lead a values-based professional services firm. The 3 keys to unlock purpose and profit. And the first person to email Warren, I want to drive profit with purpose, I'm going to send you a book. Okay. Done.
Cool. What
And
where can you find it? Amazon, all the
yeah, probably Amazon is the fastest, safest way to get it. But you can go to 3keysbook.com and relive our book launch opening in January, which was more like a book bar mitzvah than it was a book launch, but it was really fun. We had one in London and one in New York. It was super fun and super cool. Lots to learn about, about the approach, about the book. You'll find the podcast there as well. New relaunched strategic series coming out early October, which I'm sure you'll see amidst the social channels and probably in the better part of a week or so as we relaunch. And advantages.net, that's our home.
All right. I appreciate you joining me. Thank you for spending an hour. Usually we're shorter, but I know you have so much awesome knowledge to share. And my little monkey just broke into my office. So
awesome. So now we know it's time. Warren, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure to see you and to share your knowledge and wisdom with everyone else. Thank you so much, Fran.
Warren, it's always a pleasure to break the brick wall.
Bye.